This is the final report for the ECECD Datacasting project. We accomplished our 3 program goals, which was to conduct a needs assessment of the early childhood centers and providers, to provide access to early learning network content using the datacasting receivers to support families, and identifying, purchasing, and delivering the requested technology upgrades that the centers and providers who completed the needs assessment requested. There are 7 key findings and recommendations from this work. First, it's necessary to establish technology criteria for the early learning centers, and we recommend that that be tied to the star ratings as appropriate for basic to exemplary levels. Right now, this is not looked at, not measured, and this will be important. Once this criteria is in place, it's essential to conduct an early learning tech audit to get a better picture of what is actually going on in the centers using the vital signs for opportunities to learn that are included in the written version of our report. CTC has come forward with a high-level design for fixed wireless that can provide a way of connecting 107 of the 118 centers that are not currently served or are underserved, and also connect with the families that are in these communities. We'll go into much more detail about that, but we recommend that this be considered very strongly and vetted. We also recommend that support be provided, both financial and people, to the centers and home providers to meet these technology criteria. Since OBI is working on a digital navigator program, it is important to engage with OBI to make sure that this program is designed explicitly to meet early learning needs because they're different from the general population. We also recommend that we work with internet service providers to coordinate, recruit, prepare, and employ these digital navigators for customer support in the home because the lack of being able to get into the home and the home providers has been a very big obstacle which could be solved in this way. And finally, we recommend that we expand the present GEER 2 team, which includes OBI, ECECD, HED, and PED, more broadly to include Department of Workforce Solutions, Economic Development, and Department of Cultural Affairs, because this is what's going to be needed to provide a community solution to make sure that early learning providers and families are able to participate in digital inclusion activities. Why are we doing this? It's important to see what the U.S. Department of Education has recommended because we know that there is controversy about whether technology should be used in early learning. And certainly, giving students access to technology without the proper safeguards is not recommended. However, the lack of access creates deficits and makes it so that they can't take advantage of what is there. The thoughtful use of technology by parents and early educators can engage children in key skills. This is what the U.S. Department of Education says, and they make 4 recommendations. Principle number 1 is that technology creates benefit when it is actively used, and that can be a tool for early learning. It can be used to increase access to learning opportunities for all children, and especially it can be used to strengthen relationships among parents, families, early educators, and young children. And most importantly, technology is more effective when it is used for interactions and co-viewing with young children. So this is really aimed at the parents and the providers in being able to look at what are the best practices they can do and bring those best practices into the home. Our way of doing this was working with Moments Together to put their content onto the datacasting units and also make sure that it's available, which it already is, online. So this is what we have put on there. We've put on the Alex videos and we've put on tutorials in English and Spanish and provided a model that can be used and extended in follow-up. This is how it works. You see the datacasting on the one side and the PBS on the other, providing this content to the families. We've also provided on tablets and online the interactive family literacy software for parents and children, which is using that co-viewing and interactive recommendation number 4 from the U.S. Department of Education. The requests that came in from the centers were 543 equipment requests from 68 centers and home providers who completed our survey. Each request included a justification of how it would advance their work, and the top 5 were tablets, screens, projectors, printers, and document cameras, all of them intended to assist them in working with parents, giving them more information, giving them resources, and we anticipate no delays. The items have been ordered and they are being delivered now. It was a team effort in terms of the needs assessment analysis between CTC Technology and New Mexico FACES. CTC worked remotely from Maryland and as folks from around the country, and we in New Mexico FACES provided the ground team to go and verify what was being said. The map you see here is a combination of the data that we got from CTC and the data that the ground team got. And what is intended to show here is that when you look at San Juan County, the Farmington area, you see nothing but green dots, and that means that those locations are served. When you look at McKinley and Cibola counties, almost all of the unserved and underserved locations are there, the only exceptions being the two small green ovals that you see around Gallup and Grants, respectively. As soon as you move out of those populated areas, you run into problems. And so it was important to be able to make sure that those people could connect. Our combined outreach had an impact on ACP enrollment because of the phone messages and visits that were made. And as we can see here, the least enrolled are in Cibola County, the most enrolled are in McKinley County, about half are enrolled in San Juan County, and we're looking at about 18,000 people in the Tri-County area who potentially could be getting their internet paid for by ACP. However, what we see, good news and bad news, the result of this, the final results that you see, grew over time, and in some cases the numbers went up and went down, and there's a reason for that we'll see on the next slide. When we looked at the 29,606 households that are enrolled in ACP, we also saw that there were some declines over time, and the reasons for that, for this fall off, first of all, some of these folks signed up last year, and if you don't renew every year within a 60-day window, you fall off. We think that's what happened in a large part of these cases. Some people stopped receiving the benefits which allowed them to qualify. Family income might have gone up above the threshold to qualify. If students stop getting free and reduced lunch, the entire household loses its eligibility. And some people were skeptical about whether the program would be continued, and they did not want to be on the hook for the paying for the internet once the subsidy ended. So this is why we have to do continued outreach to make this work. The top-level takeaways for CTC's design are that 118 of the 239 locations, approximately half, are now considered underserved or unserved. There is no single provider who, using wireline technology, can meet all of these locations in the Tri-County area. As I mentioned earlier, McKinley and Cibola account for almost 100% of the unserved and underserved locations. So the conclusion is that based on the geography and the topography of New Mexico, the best solution is going to be a wireless solution, and that is what CTC designed. So their objectives were to make sure that they met the standard of 100 down and 20 up. It had to be consistent capacity, had to be highly available, and they found a newly available fixed technology that they could use that has higher speeds and wider coverage than the LTE systems previously in use. They wanted to serve as many locations as possible, and so the map shows here that these towers, when they are equipped with the technology that CTC has identified, will be able to light up all of the ones except those in red. The 107 locations that will be lit up also are nearby to 15,000 currently underserved and unserved who could be potentially served by this wireless design. The connectivity status in the three counties, as we've measured it in red, yellow, and green. In the green, you see the served households. In the yellow, you see the underserved households. And in the red, you see the unserved households. And these numbers are significant in terms of how many folks need help. The connectivity expansion that would result from putting in the CTC design is shown here, and it would make a significant impact on those who are not currently covered. The proposed cost model says that if we were to do this, we would be able to do it for about $4 million to do the infrastructure to set that up, And if we were to do it for the homes as well, it would go up considerably. It's $4 million just to do the centers. And when we expand it to include the households, it goes up significantly because of the equipment that's needed. For a full view of the proposal, which is a 50-page proposal, contact Mike Archerbeck or me, and we'll be happy to give you the details so that you can see, because we're just presenting an overview right here. Those are the results from our program. We're very grateful for the opportunity to work so closely with these communities and listen to their needs and present those needs to you for your consideration. Thank you very much.